Well, Ethan, this is so great. I'm having a moment here because over the last bunch of years, you and I have, well, we've all partnered with you because you are one of the videographers.
Yeah, because
And
you were forced to, right?
we were. COVID did that.
Yeah.
Yep. And one of the things that I've just appreciated a lot is your creativity, the way you think about how things are set and all of that. That when I'm vibing on a story, trying to get the story just right, there's this whole other element, and that is what it looks like, what it sounds like. And I'm just grateful for you and your craft, and that we have gotten to partner together all these years. So when we were thinking about this moment, there was really no other way in my heart to do this than you get to come out from behind the camera, and we get to celebrate our partnership. Whew, I'm already feeling it. I'm already feeling it.
That's good.
I've been doing emotional push-ups for weeks to just get through this. But anyway, it's meaningful to me, and we have told great stories together. And you know, I don't look at it that, you know, there's no math in this, like 75, 25%. You know, like I'm bringing the story, and you hit and go. No, you've really helped create the stories along with me, and I'm really grateful for that.
Well, I've really appreciated the time that we've been able to spend together, especially doing that vibing thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we just kind of get each other, and
Yeah.
it's like, but it's organic. It wasn't ever forced.
Right.
And it was like you came up with an idea, or I came up with an idea, and we just kind of merged it together. And that's always what I think, in my experience of creating videos, those are always the best ones, where you have like a collaboration.
Right.
And so that's why I think that we've worked well together.
Yeah.
Your favorite phrase, brother from another mother. Definitely.
You are a brother from another mother. You know, you taught me the phrase when we, you know, come out of the studio. I don't think you said on location, but we're
Yeah, it is basically going on location, right?
Okay.
We're going out instead of filming in the studio.
Yep.
Which we weren't even doing before, right?
Right.
COVID forced us to go into the studio
Right.
and to create the whole product that we did. That really brought the church together, I felt like, right?
Yeah.
It really kind of catalyzed
Yep.
things. But going out on location was something that really, I think, it brought an organic piece
Yeah.
into what we produced.
Yeah.
It brought some character.
Right.
You know, there's only so much you can do with a green screen.
Right.
You can
Right.
do a lot.
You can do a lot. Wow, there we are in London. No, wait, we're on the Serengeti.
Right.
You know,
But-
one of the things to that point, I think about when we went out on location to tell a story, to bring the gospel alive. There was I've tried to pay some attention to this and study this a little bit, but our brains work in a certain way. And I think that when we gather in the sanctuary, which is a beautiful space, or in the chapel, beautiful
Yeah.
space, there's sort of this sense of expectation that we all bring to that moment, that I've been here before, I've sat in this seat before, the lights have been at this point before, and something happens. We start shutting down our curiosity, our
Yeah.
imagination.
Yeah.
But when we went out on location, and I'm thinking specifically of the George Floyd moment,
Yeah.
when we did that message right at George Floyd Central, right ground zero for that. That was one of the most meaningful moments. I mean, it seems odd to say that we had a meaningful moment, you know, at the expense of so much, but I think we were able to tell a story and engage people's imaginations and their brains and our emotions and everything on a deeper level. When you think, what's your recollection of that? What was meaningful to you about that?
I mean, I think what was meaningful it was you and I, and then Matt Johnson was also
Yes.
there.
Oh, brother Matt.
And he was doing more of the sound thing, but it was a very poignant moment. I think in overall the kind of the evolution of how we responded to COVID, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So we went from, obviously, this is national news. This is a big time. And what people maybe don't realize, and this wasn't when we went out there live, because that was a few months after, if I recall correctly.
Right.
The big thing was, when that happened, we literally threw everything away. We had a whole service.
Yep.
Literally had a whole service. It was all edited, everything.
That's right.
We threw that out because we knew that we had to do something that was helpful to the current situation.
Right.
So that was a pivotal moment, I think, in what we did together as a staff.
Yeah.
For sure. But I want to know about the early years. Like, I wasn't around, so I've been around for almost 7 years, and I've determined that basically a fourth of your career here, I've been a part of it. So there's 3/4 of your career that I was not a part of.
Yeah.
So tell me about
Yeah.
like the early years, right? What were some of the kind of like, what was the feel? And you came here with Nancy Lee, right? You were the clergy couple.
Yeah, we were a
right?
clergy couple. Yeah. Let me just quick set this up.
Yeah.
And I know that people who may see this are going to hear me say, let me quick set that up. And it's like, oh, that's impossible. But Prince of Peace was a place that I'd always heard about. My first 3 years of ministry were in Pelican Rapids at North Emmanuel Lutheran Church, just a beloved congregation, very rural, surrounded on 3 sides by a cemetery, and beyond that, cornfields. It was beautiful. I used to ask the ushers to keep the back doors open so that when I was doing my thing up front, I could see the people, and I could also look through the doors at the beauty of the cornfields beyond that. It was just remarkable. And I started to hear about this. There was a church in Burnsville, Prince of Peace, and they were creating resources for churches and musicians and pastors and leaders. And so I started to, this will be helpful. And then went from there to Faribault, just south of here, to Our Savior's Lutheran Church. Again, we still have deep friendships, beloved friendships in these places. And it was there, it was a larger congregation, and things went faster. And as we have said here at Prince of Peace, on Monday or Tuesday when we evaluate a little bit, it's like, well, we had worship again. It's like, how did it go? What worked? What didn't? It was always asking those questions. So I was hearing about Prince of Peace, and at that point, I was working. One of my colleagues was the brother of one of the founding pastor here at Prince of Peace. So we were always doing things in Faribault that Prince of Peace was doing.
Yeah.
And there was this pervasive sense of, what on earth are they doing up there? What is going on here? So when Nancy Lee and I came on staff November 1st of 1995, I could not believe my good fortune to be in the place that I'd heard about, doing the things that I'd wanted to do with the people that I thought, wouldn't it be great to work with those kinds of people and that level of creativity? So when we came, there was this amazing sense of creativity, and things were going fast. But it was a harnessed creativity, and we're using our imaginations. One of the things that we often said, my beloved colleagues at that point, Han Hansen and others, Terry Elton. In fact, Terry is really responsible in some ways for putting our names on the table at Prince of Peace.
Okay.
She said, well, hey, there's a clergy couple in Faribault. How about if we consider that, you know? And by the way, when we came to Prince of Peace, we did come as a clergy couple. Nancy Lee was just newly minted. We had just celebrated her ordination just a couple weeks before that. So when we came and people would call and they'd ask for Pastor Gauche, Nancy Lee would respond back, ask back, do you want the young one or the good-looking one? And you know, it's like, they just hang up, you know, it's like, oh, that is a no-win situation for them. It's a win-win situation for us. Super creative. I had this sense at Prince of Peace that everybody was sort of in the lane of getting to do what they did best and not just doing what was on some prescribed job description. Mm-hmm. Job descriptions and titles came and went like the tide, you know. It's like when I came, ordained Lutheran pastor, I was working with junior high small groups. Woo! I mean, those young kids taught me so much. And but it was creativity, music, art. I've sort of never really liked the word programming, but our program ministry was how do we take this treasure of this gospel story of Jesus, this rabbi from Jerusalem, Nazareth, who changes everything. How do we share that story with junior high kids, with senior high kids? What are the things that sort of turn their hearts and heads toward that, and then how do we meet that? So lots of creativity.
Right.
Yeah.
So, can you tell me a little bit about First Light? Right.
Yeah. First Light. Yeah. First Light was a ministry that existed prior to my coming. Han Hansen, Paul Murakami, and others wanted to get together with senior high kids and sing and play and pray and learn. And it was this marvelous ministry that already had some deep roots when I came. We would meet on Wednesday evenings from 7 to 9 in the sanctuary. It was when we got together. We always did large group games right away. And we called it Yip Ya. That was like, we need some Yip Ya. We need a game or whatever. And I sort of I think I tried to say Yip Ya once, and what came out of my mouth was hoopla and hilarity. And through the years, that kind of stuck. That's kind of a...
That's a you thing.
Is it a thing? I don't know. I mean, when I say hoopla and hilarity, or if I said hoopla, people would say and hilarity. Anyway, so we did this, and there were multiple high schools, lots of young people coming to these gatherings, and after the hoopla and hilarity or the yip ya, we would settle into small groups. There was a Bible story, and probably 45 minutes of small group ministry. We had so many kids, man, and we had so many leaders. We had so many young adult leaders, and it would never have happened without those committed leaders, week in, week out. I remember after my first year here, sort of watching this mammoth, remarkable thing. Paul Murakami made a shift in his career and went to another church. He vacated a spot, and I remember Hant coming to me and he said, "I'd like you to think about filling that spot." And I'm like, "Well, I don't know too many people, but I'll put my antenna up, looking for." And he said, "No, I'd like you to think about filling the spot." And I don't know if I was just not thinking broad enough or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, I'll check and see who can do this for us. And it was like, Hant had to stick his finger in my chest and said, "I want you to think about doing this. you you want me to do what he did. Now keep in mind, I'm coming from 2 other calls where I just looked at this whole thing, and there was this moment where I was like, how is it that I'm here? How is this happening? And maybe a little bit, there's no way on God's green earth that I'm going to be able to do. I mean, this is legacy stuff. How do we do this? And I think that Hant was just reassuring, said, this is it. We don't do anything without a team.
Yeah.
And I think that's when it's like, oh, you know what? Yeah.
Can you tell me about, like, I know that you have certain people that you've run across that have been really pivotal in your shaping, because I'm going to be honest, you're pretty amazing. I mean, like, you have your stuff together, or at least it feels that way. Maybe not internally. I don't know, but you are able to traverse so many different things, so many different obstacles.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about some pivotal people in your life that you've run across, maybe that were on staff for a while, that have kind of gone on?
Yeah.
Influential people.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that, Ethan. I appreciate that. I received that. I appreciate that. When I met Nancy Lee, she had been an area youth director in Williston, North Dakota for Young Life. And it was through all of that I learned the name Jim Rayburn, who was the founder of Young Life Ministries.
Okay.
And a sentence that Jim Rayburn used once that became just powerful for me and just legendary. He said, it's a sin to bore a kid. It's a sin or a crime or whatever, it's that we're to bore a kid with the gospel. I've always sort of thought outside the box. I just there's got to be another way to communicate this. That's just the way I'm wired.
Mm-hmm.
And I took seriously that phrase that it's wrong to bore anybody. So I started to look around in my life at people who were good communicators, people that that kind of you walk by them and then you kind of do this double take, and throughout my whole ministry there have been people who have been that I've learned from. One of those people is dear family friends of ours, Matt and Kathy Vollen from Moorhead. They are a clergy couple. They live on their farm south of Moorhead, and Matt and Kathy were farmers for decades. And then it was while we were at Prince of Peace that there's no real connection there, but during this time that Matt and then Kathy decided that they would go to seminary. And so we've learned, Kathy and Nancy Lee grew up together in Williston, and Matt and I have been friends most of our adult years. Although when Matt and I get together, we're still pretty much junior high kids. You can only imagine. But Matt said to me one day, I'll just never forget the phrase, and it's sort of along the line with it's a sin to bore a kid. Matt said, when it comes to a congregation, when we're serving people, if you love them, they will trust you. Mm-hmm. If you love them, they will trust you. And it's sort of not an intentional transaction, like I'm going to love you so that I can get your trust. It's not a transaction that way. It's an organic thing, We love each other as brothers, and therefore we trust each other.
Yeah.
With stuff like this, and all the stuff we've done together. But I think Matt and Kathy, and Matt's phrase, if you love them, they will trust you, really was one of those foundational things for me. So that was pivotal. The other colleague from beyond Prince of Peace, Bob and Lisa McIntyre, are dear friends. I met Bob my second day of college at Pacific Lutheran in Tacoma, go Lutes. and and we have been deeply connected friends for decades since way back then. And there was never a time in Bob's life where he didn't know that he was going to be a pastor, that he was going to be in ministry. And you know, when all of this was just like, you know, my faith was being, my spiritual formation was happening. I looked at Bob, and it was like, oh, so that's what that looks. This is what it looks like.
Yeah.
So Bob's taught me a lot of things. You know, we've been each other's mentors, best friends, best man, each other's weddings. You know, Bob and Lisa know our kids well. We know and love their kids.
Yeah.
So I honestly say that there's a good chance we may not be sitting here like this if not for Bob. And then really cementing some things with Matt. But my colleagues at Prince of Peace through the years, man, you know,
Yeah.
it's a different thing. The creativity that we talked about, the desire to not do it like we've always done it before, but is there a different way to do this? I've always wanted to err on the side of creativity and imagination. That's why oftentimes when on a Sunday morning or a Saturday evening in worship, you know, I just wouldn't read the passage from John 14, you know.
Yeah.
I would ask people to come at it with beginner's mind. It comes out of our meditation.
Yeah.
How can this be the first time I experienced this?
Yeah.
What's new? What am I hearing? What didn't I hear before? You know, and maybe close their eyes and just imagine the scene, because you know, people come to church on a weekend, like I was saying earlier, and our brains just kick into the mode we did before. It's very one-dimensional. There's a dude or a dudette up in front. There's a leader up in front. He or she reads a passage, then has something to say about that. People are thinking about, what time do I have to put the ham in the oven so that it gets out by the time people arrive? Or, you know, I think I got to mow the lawn this afternoon, you know, or I've brought with me, I'm sparring with my spouse or my significant other, my partner, that things aren't quite right. How am I going to? And meanwhile, there's this whole gospel thing going on that should speak into that. So I'm asking people to be here now for just a few moments. Use your imagination, close your eyes, see the scene, so that we can build trust, we can build love, and we can have that gospel impact us. I've seen people do that.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the people that are beyond Prince of Peace, you know, Brian McLaren, great communicator. Of course, you know, Rob Bell.
Yeah.
You know, there have been those, but my colleagues at Prince of Peace, you, Darren, Jake, the others, my pastoral colleagues through the years, Mike Foss, and then, you know, Jeff Marion, Sandy Rothschiller, Jason Cramey, probably who am I forgetting? But you know, it's just like, you know, these people. We've all been in, as I've said, we've all been in the pool together. We've all been swimming together, and when we do that, we watch each other and take what's helpful, and let the rest go away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, lots of, you know, and not last nor least. You know, I've always said I've learned a lot about ministry, youth ministry, family ministry from Nancy Lee. Yeah, it's she's really a champion, and we worked together on staff at Prince of Peace for 7 years.
Okay.
She was a pastor of children, youth, and family, and she lead Bible studies, women's Bible studies. They would meet, you know, in at the YMCA, by the pool, in a wine bar. People who would never walk into that building otherwise.
Yeah.
and Nancy Lee met them where they are. And I've tried to do that, just meet people where they are.
Yeah.
I have a love affair with, with baristas all over the place, cashiers. Often said, I want to be the last thing they think about before they pass out at night, before they go to sleep.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that to be weird at all, but I
No.
want the interaction that we've had
Yeah.
to be like, there's something different about that. And I think that Jesus calls, is it in New Testament? Yeah.
Well, Jesus was in the New
Right.
Testament last
Was
time.
he in the New
I
Testament?
mean,
Yeah.
he was there at the beginning, but
Yeah.
anyways.
Or maybe it was Peter. Maybe it was Paul or Mary. Peter, Paul, or Mary. Yeah, sorry. But anyway, that we're to be a holy fragrance. We are to be a holy fragrance. I know this to be true about your life. I know that you want for your students that you teach. I know that there's a sense in you, Ethan, where after some interaction, teacher, student, that whole thing, that there's something about all that we do here that you want that fragrance of Christ to be in their lives. And I think through the eons, the church has gotten in real big trouble by trying to cram all of this into people's hearts and make them we don't have to go there. I mean, the church has a history.
Yeah.
I think the most powerful thing that we can do is let the aroma of Christ just seep through our pores. And when we're kind, when we're honest, when we're creative, when we're compassionate, all of that stuff, I think that's when we shift the world a little bit. So
Yeah.
I don't even remember what your question was, man. Holy buckets.
It's all good.
It's all good.
It's all good. I mean, so you've been here 28 years.
Yeah.
Your kids were young, relatively
Yeah.
young when you came here.
Yeah.
Talk about that, like the whole transition. I mean, you go from your kids to being grandparents, and you got Hoonies, right?
Yeah, Hoonies. Yeah, Hoonies.
Talk about that, and you in the role of pastor of transitions.
Yeah.
There's a lot in there.
Yeah.
Briefly touch on what that's meant to maybe your experience to both raising your kids and then now being present and around for your grandchildren.
Yeah. Sarah and Soren, our two kids, now have families of their own. Sarah and Travis live on the West Coast, and our three granddaughters from them, Ruby Grace, Ryan May, and sweet Emily. I remember I was teaching a parenting class at Prince of Peace in the old chapel in the building across the way. And I told the parenting class on a Wednesday night that I was sort of on watch. Sarah was and I got a text from Travis saying that Sarah's gone into labor. And I just remember feeling the phone buzz and then looking at, and then sharing that with a group of this group of parents.
Yeah.
And they were already, where Nance and I had been, but suddenly now there's this new generation. So fast forward, Ruby Grace, Ryan May, and Emily, and I somehow or other, as we do, nickname came out, Hoonies. Ruby Grace was our first Hoonie, and I don't, H-O-O-N-I-E, Hoonie. Who would have thought? So, and I remember people were sort of like watching how we were moving into grandparenting. And these are the same people, to your point, that had watched us move through parenting. When we came, Sarah was in 5th grade, I think it was,
Okay.
and Soren was in 3rd grade. I think I got that right. Yeah, they were young. Yeah. And, there's no easy way to make a change, like moving from one community to another.
Right.
Saying goodbye to family and friends, and mostly friends in that area. I'm a Navy brat, so I got in on a few moves and stuff. So I was aware of that, but I brought my positivity to, that this was going to open up all kinds of new experiences and stuff, and it did. And some of it was just remarkable. A lot of it's just remarkable. Some of it's really challenging, and but that's life. We all get that. So watching our kids go from, you know, 5th and 3rd grade to 4th and 6th, and then on through, and we were surrounded by all kinds of communities, you know, sports communities, baseball, hockey, swimming, these communities, other people who were raising kids the same age. And it was always important for us to have other adults in the lives of our kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I think it's important to understand that you've also had lows, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've
Yeah.
had lows in your life. Can
Yeah.
you think of, I have one in my mind that you've told stories about. So, talking about like after your accident, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you touch on that and why, like, because I think people have this view of you that it's like you're
Yeah.
superhero, you're always positive, all that stuff, which you are. You exude that.
Yeah.
But tell me about that struggle that you had, what briefly,
Yeah.
what you had experienced, and I know that that was a pivotal moment for your personal
Yeah.
transformation.
Yeah. Yeah. I've said many times that for people who sort of swim in the Enneagram pool, I'm an Enneagram 7, which means I'm the enthusiast, and so I'm like a walking party and all of that. You know, I am that way because of other things.
Yeah.
You know, we get all that, but that's who I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. My Clifton strengths, my Strengths Finder strengths, positivity is one of the top 5, and adaptability is another one. So when you put adaptability and positivity together, you're going to get someone who's like, okay, I'm on my friend's farm, I'm in the barn, and I'm having to pull my pants up because I'm knee deep in it. I'm knee deep in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm the one who is knee deep in it, the muck and all of the horse hooey. And I'm the one who's saying, there's got to be a pony in here someplace, you know. I've also said too that positivity is sometimes toxic. There can be toxic positivity.
Yes.
But negativity is always toxic, from my perspective.
Yeah.
So, in 2016, I'll be quick. 3 things happened. I went on a hike, 150 miles. It was one of the top 3 moments of my life. It was on the Spear Hiking Trail. It was great.
Yeah.
Y'all were gracious for a year. Let me talk about that, and you know, every metaphor possible I wrung out completely. Came back from that, celebrated our son Soren's birthday with him, and on the way home that night was hit by a drunk driver, and just about rolled my truck, and I somehow survived that physically. And then a month later, all these things happened a month apart. Then in the late fall of that year, my dad died, and I was like, okay, I am now cooked, and it was just too much.
Yeah.
I'm looking for life lessons and everything, but it's like, you know, I didn't even have much breath left to process it. So I got some help. I asked for help. Went to a counselor, did some therapy, and you know, here we are all these years later. But I think one of the things that was really important, and guys came to me after and just reminded me of this, that when they heard me say that I went to therapy, that I asked for help, that was a big deal for a lot of guys who are trying to white knuckle everything, you know, and trying to, you know, so that along with then paying attention to what was going on inside of me, sort of stepping into the world of meditation with Headspace, there were a lot of things that saved my life. And out of that came a way of talking about the challenges in life that are super hard, that just don't by default have to take us completely down.
Yeah.
That there are ways to take all of that. I think it was Rob Bell, our another brother from another mother, who in some podcasts, it's now over 380, and I've listened to every one of them more than once. He has this phrase that he says, everything belongs. Everything belongs. So, and Ethan, you and I have had conversations about this. When we begin to hold it all and see what it has to teach us, rather than I don't want to look at that. But when we hold challenges and ask ourselves, what does this have to teach? Because it all belongs. In my 28 years at Prince of Peace, I have said, and in ministry, like the day after my last day here at Prince of Peace, July 1st will be my 40th anniversary of my ordination.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like 40 years in the promised land, not without some significant wilderness moments. And it's when we hold those wilderness moments and ask what they have to teach, that the promised land, however we define that, it sort of all, this all belongs. All of this has something to teach.
I mean, let's give weather for example. This is Minnesota. We talk about the weather, right?
Yeah.
If every day was the perfect day, we wouldn't enjoy the beautiful days, would we?
Right.
We
Right.
would. No, we might not. Well, we would probably still complain.
Yeah. As we are wont to do. Yeah, we're sort of wired that way. It's too hot.
Yes.
Oh, it's too bright. Oh man, I have to mow the lawn again. Whatever. Yeah. But to hold it all and ask, what does this have to teach us? How is Christ redeeming? And that's such a big churchy word, but to redeem something means to pour worth into it, to hold it and to see, how does Christ redeem these difficult, if new life comes out of it, if life comes out of tragedy, if growth comes out of death. I mean, these are all biblical themes. We've talked about all of these things.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I would never I'm going to err on the side of finding the growth moment, if that's positivity. If finding the growth moment is toxic, then we have to have a conversation about what toxic means. But
Right.
But yeah, to err on the side of finding out how God is redeeming these challenges, that's where I want to be.
Let's wrap this up here. I'm not even sure how to quite wrap this up, because it's not like you're dying.
Right.
You're going to go on to do
Yeah.
these wonderful, beautiful things. You're
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
transitioning
Yeah.
out of Prince of Peace.
Right.
So what do you think it is that you want people, if there was one thing that you wanted people to
Yeah.
take from your life and ministry, or a lesson? I mean, I guess that's Thrivers, right? That's the
It is.
the Thriver.
Yep.
But there was something
Yep.
that you want, like a word of encouragement, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah. The whole Thrivera thing, which was really the last piece that we all did together, really paying attention to what it means to be spirited, creative, connected people, called to be present, grateful, generous, and missional with our lives. I think it wasn't until I that all sort of came into focus for me after the the hike, the
Yeah.
crash,
Yeah.
and the death,
Mm-hmm.
that new life came. I started to ask those questions.
Right.
I think if I could wish anything for this beloved community of faith at Prince of Peace is to hold on to the thread of the DNA from the very beginning, being creative, always asking, how can we do this in a more effective, creative way that touches children, young people, their families, young adults. I love that Prince of Peace made the bold decision to just throw open the doors to all people, no exceptions, to all God's people everywhere, to continue to do that, to help people ask these questions. What does it mean to be a spiritual person, to have this breath spirit of God in our lives?
Yeah.
Being creative, honoring our connections, our relationships, and not being rushing into the future so fast that we miss the present. Like right here, right now, these people in this place.
Yeah.
Practicing gratitude, that leads to generosity, and that will bring into focus our mission. So those things. I think on the last weekend together, I said a lot of thank yous, because honestly, and this is not self-deprecation. Feels weird I have to say this, but this is not about me. This is not about me. What this is about is Christ's work in us and all of us together, responding to the gospel's call, responding to Jesus' call to be those people in this place. I love Philip and Nathaniel. This is one of the Gospels. I'm going to get the names. Philip says, "Hey, we've found the one who's been spoken of for generations, Jesus from Nazareth." And Nathaniel asks, "Can anything good come out of Nazareth?" And then Philip's response back, he says, "Come and see. Come and see." It's just like holy show and tell. Come and see. I want that. I would want that for Prince of Peace forever, to invite the world beyond us to come and see. But we have got to go out into the world, with that invitation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think finally, and this is really important, I receive this from people. They've wanted me to never stop. And with all due love and respect, I have to stay until I do everybody's memorial service. I love that, and I receive that. But there were pastors here before I came, and
Yeah.
they were beloved. People had relationship with them. If they sort of kept floating around and doing things, I might not have had the entree into people's lives like I've had, because they might have been in the way.
Yeah.
So my challenge, my hope, wish, prayer, for Prince of Peace is to love the new generation of leadership that has started to come and is coming, and to love them well and to trust them well, because love and trust are at the base of this.
Yeah.
And I'm convinced that 28 and a half years from now, Ethan, you and I are going to find each other in a coffee shop. And we're just going to have a few moments where we're going to think about what the next generation, and you're part of that. You are part of that. And I really want that for the congregation. that's there, and I might even want it a little more for the congregation that is not there yet. Because we exist to serve the people who are here, but we also exist, and this is rooted so deeply in the gospel, that we exist to be the aroma of Christ, to be people who thrive in our lives because of what God is up to in and through us, so that people not even here yet will be blessed by what we continue to build and what has been built.
And that's your story, and you're sticking to it.
That is my story, and I'm sticking to it. Well, thanks for this, Ethan. It's just a joy and an honor to do this.
You're welcome.
I love that neither one of us crossed our legs, you know.
I think I did for just a short period of time.
And then there was this voice like, Ethan, don't do that. Yeah. No.
Right.
So.